Welcome to reading lesson number 4 on task 1, describing a process. Before you start this lesson, you will need to have the following to hand: your training booklet, a pen or pencil, a rubber, lined paper, and a timer set for 13 minutes for practice 1 and again for 20 for practice 2. You can follow this lesson as with the others in your training booklet, where you will find all the writing tasks, example answers and the writing answer sheets. After this lesson, you will have an understanding of what to expect in the writing task in which you need to describe a process. You will have a clear overview of the task and have learned some tips and strategies on how best to approach the task, as well as have a chance to practice using authentic tasks and compare your answers to model answers. In this first task, you have to describe a process in 150 words. You will need to use appropriate vocabulary for describing processes, and you can find this vocabulary in your training booklets. You need to plan and structure your writing. Now we're going to practice together, and first of all we're going to look at how to structure your writing. Look at the task in your training booklet. First of all, you look at the task, and as with the other task ones, you have to read it carefully, including that you understand what the actual diagram is showing. You should then decide what is the overview and what are the main features. You should take about a minute to do this. Again, we will look at this stage in more detail on the next slide. After, you need to take 1 minute to write a short introduction, write an overview in about 3 minutes, write the main body in 13 minutes, and lastly write a short conclusion in a minute. After you've done all of that, you have 1 minute to check your writing. Now we're going to look at stage 1, how to plan your answer. First of all, you have to look carefully at the task. Make sure you ask yourself the questions: what is it about? Make sure you take time to understand what the diagram and the process is showing. What is the overview? You need an overview for a process too, so you can use things like how many steps there are and what is involved. For further ideas, you can have a look at the vocabulary in your training booklet. Then you can have a look at what are the main features. Here you have to choose the most significant features. Sometimes you have a lot of steps or stages, and in which case you would have to group them, as you don't need to describe them all individually. However, if you only have 3 different stages, then you would need to describe them. Now we'll look at some ideas together. Before we start, I'll give you a little bit of time to answer the 3 questions. First of all, what is it about? It shows how cement and concrete are produced. There are 2 diagrams, so you must make sure that you write about both of them. Secondly, what is the overview? Don't forget, you don't need to write anything yet. I'll give you a little bit of time to work out what the overview is. There's not one right answer for this, but you should include things like how many stages and or steps are involved and if a machine or people are needed. And lastly, what are the main features? So I'll give you a little bit of time to decide what you think the main features are. In this case, I would describe all of the different stages, as there aren't too many and it doesn't really work if you leave some out. I would describe the different stages and use numbers if possible. Now you should write a short introduction and you should include what the process shows. Be careful, if there are two process diagrams, then you have to write an introduction for both. You have to say where it is, when it is, and what it is. You have 1 minute to write a short introduction. I will tell you when the time is up. You can start now. Your time is up now. So you could write something like this, but this is only one possible answer. These two diagrams illustrate the different steps and procedures during cement production, as well in the process of making concrete from cement and other ingredients to be used in construction. Now you're going to write a short overview. You can take 3 minutes to write the overview. I will tell you when the time is up, and if you finish before then, just fast forward the slide, and then we will have a look at an example together. You can start now. Okay, your time is up. Here is an example of what you could write. Don't forget that other answers are possible. Overall, the process of cement making is divided into 5 stages, and that of concrete making is a one-step procedure, and both processes involve machines and equipment. Now you need to write the main body. You have to include the main features that you have chosen, and you need to support those with data and numbers from the diagram. You should use appropriate vocabulary and a good range of grammatical structures. You can start your timer now, which is set to 13 minutes, and in that time you should write the body of the task. If you finish before, just go to the next slide. You can pause the video lesson now and start your timer. Lastly, you need to take a minute to write a short conclusion. I'll give you 1 minute to write the conclusion, and then we will look at an example. You can start now. Your time's up. This is an example of what you could write. Other answers are possible. To conclude, it can be seen that the equipment and stages of production of both cement and concrete are different, but both are relatively simple. Now you can take a minute to read through your writing. Check for spelling mistakes, legibility, which means make sure your handwriting is clear, and punctuation. I will give you a minute starting now. Okay, your time is up now. Now you can check and compare your answer to the model answer in your training booklet. When you've finished, just go to the next slide. Now you have the chance to practice alone and write a task 1 in 20 minutes. You may refer to the vocabulary in your training booklet if you like and if you need to. Now go to practice 1.2 in your training booklet. You can set your timer for 20 minutes and then pause this video. When you do that, then you can start writing and just go to the next slide and press play when you've finished. Now you can compare your answer to the model answer in your training booklet. Take as much time as you like doing this. Don't forget that your answer does not have to be as good as the model answer. It's just to make sure that you do have an overview, you have the correct main features, and that it is well structured. Again, if you would like any feedback on your writing from us, then please just write us an email. That is the end of lesson 4 on task 1. Now, after a short quiz, you can go on to lesson 5, which is on task 2.